Hello, I'm Cindy Echols. I'm the president of the Cherokee County Republican Women, and today I am here with Michael Caldwell. He is actually running for Senate District 21. We're going to be giving him the opportunity to do an opening statement. We have a few questions for him, and then he will be giving you his closing statement and give you his reasons for why he chose to run for office. Thank you for coming, Michael.
Thank you for having me. All right, I'm Michael Caldwell. I'm a proven conservative who's asking for your vote to be our next state senator on June the 9th. Over the last 8 years, I've represented Cherokee County in the Georgia House of Representatives, and over that time, I have earned a ranking as one of the top 5 conservative voices out of all 236 House members and senators in the state of Georgia. And I've done that, and it was on purpose. It didn't happen by accident. I did that because I'm 100% pro-life. I'm the only candidate in the race with the endorsement of the author of the Heartbeat Bill. I'm 100% pro-Second Amendment. I'm the only candidate in the race who's always maintained an A with the NRA. But when I got involved, when I decided to run for office originally, it was more than just leading with conservative policy. I think conservative policy should always be forefront, but I believed we deserved an elected leader who answered and was unquestionably accountable to us. And so I led the way on issues trying to build a more accountable standard for elected legislators in Georgia. I was the first legislator in Georgia to refuse lobbyist money before or after getting elected. And that was because I wanted you to know I answer to you and not the special interests at the Capitol. I was the first legislator in Georgia to refuse out-of-state money before or after getting elected, and that's because my grandparents in New Jersey and the Hollywood star in California shouldn't have a say when it comes to deciding who our next state senator is. And I was the first legislator in Georgia, and I'm the only elected official in Georgia who sends all of my money back to my donors at the end of every election cycle, because I believe I should have to re-earn your support every 2 years. I shouldn't be running on a contribution you made in the past. I don't believe in war chests. I send it back to my donors, and I start from scratch every 2 years. So we did that because we were trying to build a new level of accountability in Georgia, and I'm a firm believer accessibility leads to accountability. And so we led on accessibility as well. I do a daily disclosure of my campaign finances every day, down to the penny, so that you don't have to wait for a mandated state disclosure report to figure out where my money's coming from. You can see it every day on my website. I do a write-up on every single vote I've ever cast in the House. You can go read every one of them all the way back to 2013 on my website, and I tweet them live from the House floor so that you can always keep up with us in real time, know what I was thinking when we were voting, because I believe that that kind of accessibility is important in keeping me accountable. I've held more public meetings than any elected official in Georgia history. I've held just over 400 weekly coffees now at Copper Coin on Saturday mornings, and you guys are always welcome to join me there. We're doing them digitally right now. And my personal cell phone is always available at 678-523-8570. I'm the only candidate in the race who's always maintained an A with the NRA, the only candidate who owns a business, but most importantly, I'm the only candidate who lives in Cherokee County. It is more important than ever that we have a voice from Cherokee County in Georgia's state legislature. I was raised here, I'm raising my children here, I married my high school sweetheart here, and I built my business here in Cherokee County at a time when we're going into redistricting and at a time when we are up against an unprecedented radical left. And we were fighting for conservative values. Cherokee County is Republican ground zero in this state, and we need a voice in the upper chamber. We need a voice out of Cherokee County and Georgia State Senate. I'm Michael Caldwell. I'm a proven conservative. I'm asking for your vote for the opportunity to be your state senator on June the 9th. And thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for having me today.
You're welcome. So, Michael, why do you want to be a state senator?
Well, for a lot of the reasons that we just walked through. I think one of the most fundamentally important questions in this race is how we ensure that as we're going into a year of redistricting and as we are up against an increasingly emboldened radical left, that we make sure that the areas of our state that are the most conservative, Cherokee County is one of very few counties that can say we elected Brian Kemp, that we have a voice in that upper chamber. It is the smaller chamber. We have 56 members who represent 10.5 million people. And I think our county deserves a voice in that chamber. I'm the only candidate in quite a few places, but I'm the only candidate who doesn't accept lobbyist money. And to me, that has always been a fundamental differentiator, but it's a fundamentally important piece in this race to me. And I think that we need that voice in the state senate. So I've offered myself up, and I hope that the voters of Cherokee County will see that as important too.
Okay. What is your agenda, and if elected, what changes would you like to make?
Yes, ma'am. So I'm the only candidate in the race who supports term limits. The very first bill that I filed in the State House was a bill to place term limits on our state legislators. And the very first bill I file in the state Senate will be a bill for term limits on our state legislators. And so my very first priority in the state Senate will be fighting for term limits because I think it's a fundamentally important thing that we need here in Georgia. My second highest priority is in the State House and will continue to be in the State Senate, repealing old law. So I have repealed more law than any legislator in Georgia history. I actually chaired the subcommittee on code revision that was dedicated to repeal of obsolete law and old state entities. And so at a time when government can't seem to help but grow, I think it's important that we have legislators who are focused on reeling that back. And I think Cherokee County is the perfect place for that voice to come from because we're just sort of a conservative bastion. And so I've done that in the State House, and I intend to continue that effort in the State Senate. And then most importantly, as a business owner, I recognize that increased taxes and tax liability is the #1 hindrance to innovation and entrepreneurship. And so when we talk about repealing law and red tape, we have to also talk about lowering the tax liability in the state and making it fairer and flatter. And so I have been proud to be a part of the efforts to repeal, I am a part of the effort to repeal the income tax. I'm a co-sponsor on the fair tax. But I'm also have been a part of the efforts to lower our income tax for the first time in state history, which we've voted for twice out of the State House now, and to flatten it, so to create a flat tax in the state. And I want to continue those efforts out of the State Senate as well. We've got to see a lower, fairer tax structure in the state to incentivize business, entrepreneurship, and innovation, because the government doesn't create. But entrepreneurs and Georgians build, create, and innovate in a way that we never could. Our job is to get out of the way and ensure they have an environment in which they can succeed.
Okay. Governor Kemp has asked for budget cuts because the state revenue has fallen due to the shutdown. What issues do you see arising from these budget cuts?
That's a great question. We are absolutely going to see budget cuts across the board. So the governor most recently has asked for 14% budget cuts across the board here in Georgia in response to COVID-19. We saw a 35% reduction in revenue in April, which is not insignificant.
Yeah.
We have no idea what the May numbers are going to look like yet. And we go back into session on June the 11th to go address these concerns. When you talk about 14% cuts across the board with no exceptions, you're talking about cuts to healthcare and public safety and education. These are core services of the state. We're not talking about trimming fat. We're talking about cutting into muscle and bone. And it's part of why I think it's so important. We need proven conservatives at the helm right now, because we understand and recognize that limited government and government focused on primary issues like healthcare and public safety and education it's where our heart has to be when we get into these budget conversations. We're going to have some really difficult conversations, not just on things that we should have been having years ago, but on things that we don't want to be having these conversations on. And so it's so important that we know we have conservatives who have priorities in front of them and can keep things like education and public safety first and foremost, because these cuts are going to affect us all, and we need to make sure we're keeping our eye on the prize.
Well, that is all the questions that we have. At this time, we give you the opportunity to do a closing statement, and we are so glad you came.
I cannot say thank you enough, and I want to say thank you to the voters, not just in the 21st Senate District, but in the 20th House District, who've sent me down to the Capitol for the last 4 terms. It has been the honor of my lifetime to represent you guys. I'm asking for an opportunity to go over to the upper chamber and represent our values in Georgia's state Senate. I believe I'm the most conservative candidate in this race. I have a top 5 conservative rating statewide, and that's out of both chambers. That was hard-earned. But it was hard-earned not just in a traditional way, but in a way where we handicapped ourselves in campaign finance and in accessibility ways unlike anyone ever had, for the sole purpose of showing we deserve better out of our elected officials, and we should hold them to high expectations. And I wanted to meet those, and I wanted to lead by example on those, and I believe I've shown that we can. And I want to show that it doesn't just work in a House district. We can do this in the state Senate as well, and we can do it. It doesn't handicap our ability to go lead on real conservative policy and conservative issues too. I'm the only candidate in this race who doesn't accept money from lobbyists. I'm the only candidate in this race who supports term limits, and I'm asking for your vote on June the 9th to represent Cherokee County. This is my home. I want to see us represented well in the upper chamber, and I'm asking for your support. It'd be an honor to represent you in the state Senate. My name is Michael Caldwell, and I appreciate your vote and your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.